Grassroots Outreach team, empowering your Grasstops engagement with Go teams. To do that, we have the wonderful Hedelman on the line as well. So Harold's background, actually, if I can just give a quick bio, if you'll allow me, Harold. As the founder of Business Climate Leaders in the 80s, Harold followed graduate school at Cornell with a stint in early computer games, and then began to do entrepreneurial acts. Most recently, he designed and ran a pilot program for the Natural Resources Defense Council, testing whether their membership in 6 Midwestern states could effectively support the Clean Power Plan, solve the climate crisis. He views pricing carbon as a necessary first step. With this, we are honored to have you be on the line, Harold. We also have Bruce Hagen on the phone tonight, Director of Clean Energy Business Engagement with Business Climate Leaders. Bruce's energy and environmental policy work goes back to the first Earth Day, and along the way, he's worked with the California Coastal Commission and Nuclear Safeguards Initiatives, as well as working for both PG&E's demand side management program and 4 years as Petaluma's Enphase Energy. So with this, we're just going to have a quick overview of the learning goals for this part. Bruce and Harold hope to explain the basics of the Grassroots Outreach, or GO team, and how it supports CCL's Grasstops engagement work, taking those next steps to forming GO teams for your own chapter or state, a wonderful tool to really help kind of boost and organize your team along this pathway. And then I also just want to say, if you are a smaller team calling in, for example, maybe you're a force of one out there, or you don't have a lot of volunteer capacity to leverage, by no means do we expect that all of these tools or resources are things that you need to follow immediately. We don't want to overwhelm volunteers, especially if you do happen to come from a smaller, more intimate group. We're just giving a framework that you can kind of take and pick a menu, if you will, of options that really is going to be applicable depending on what your interests are. So don't feel like you need to take to heart all of the recommendations that Bruce and Harold will go over, just what might fit best for you and your role. So they're going to talk about your role, about GO teams, about who is on the team and how to organize your team, engaging your prospects, how to get started, and then we'll have more time for Q&A. So I'll get out of the way here and I'll pass it to you, Harold.
Great. Thank you, guys. You're doing a wonderful job of assimilating all this information for everybody and getting the CCU thing working to get this information out. And it's so critical. What our goal is very simple. The slide says that we would love to see a GO team in every district, coordinated statewide. What would that look like in 3 years? Just imagine if we had GO teams everywhere with a network locally based and locally talked to on a regular basis, so that when we get an important bill on the floor of Congress, every district can go to the members of that network that they've created and say, okay, there's a bill on the floor, let's get busy. You schedule a meeting with your member of Congress, and away you go. Imagine the power that Citizens Climate Lobby will have when we have those influencers in relationship with ourselves, ready to go to work. That requires engagement. It's well beyond endorsement. It's well beyond signing a letter. It's actually an active relationship, and it positions you as a leader in your community because you're leading that aspect of the community. You're leading the community on climate. So it's a real fun thing to grow into. We've seen it happen in chapters around the country, and we're hoping to help you do the same.
What we're doing is we have right now and have had for years a really great structure to support chapters with Grasstops engagement, endorsement, whatever we happen to call it. What we're trying to do is be a little more systematic about supporting activities in particular chapters, and there's 4 ways that we do this. The first one is we help you form the team. So who would be good to be part of this team? What skills are you looking for? Who you might have in your chapter who's looking for a challenge, who's looking for a growth opportunity, as well as some of the training that's involved in making them effective. We also have a variety of templates and techniques for being successful early with your engagement efforts. So you can produce people signing letters, attending meetings, all the things and more that Todd had been speaking about. In addition to this, we are providing ongoing mentoring to the team. So we'll participate in a regular call. If they have a call every other week, we try to join that call, offer advice. And the last item there is networking leads. we're in a position now, because we have people working specific industry sectors, in addition to working in chapters, we have a fellow that's responsible for the food and beverage industry, and he's making connections with companies like Mars, who makes the candy bars, and Amy's Kitchen, who makes the organic frozen foods. And we can take the connections that we're making at that national big company level or trade group level and bring them back to the chapters. One great example just came up recently as we met with a sustainability director for Amy's Kitchen, happens to be about 10 miles from my house, and found out that when we met with the folks in Bend, Oregon yesterday, that they have an Amy's factory that employs over 1,000 people in their district. So now it's going to be an easy call for the Bend people to make to their local Amy's Kitchen people, because we will have introduced them via email to the contact that we made here in Sonoma County, California. So that's just an example of one of the 4 ways that we're trying to work and strengthen the oomph of the chapter efforts to get these community leaders, these Grasstops people on board with our agenda.
This is something we've been working with for over a year. This is one of the first chapters that we reached out to. John, why don't you just tell the story from the beginning to end and to what's coming up next month for you?
Okay, I'm part of the Boise chapter of CCL in Idaho. We'd been working with that gentleman for about 2 years with, great conversations, but really no action. And one of the things we kept kind of hearing from him and his staff is that the business community hadn't weighed in. So last spring, we started thinking about how we could get the business community more involved. And we had gone out, and our members had gone out and gotten some letters and endorsements from kind of the small mom and pop businesses in the city, which were great, but we decided to go a different route. We really wanted to go after some of the larger and what we thought would be the more influential businesses in Idaho. Talked to Harold and some initial first contacts. They gave us contacts to Cliff Bar and Happy Family Foods, which have all facilities here in Idaho, and they were kind of our the founding members of our little group. And not only did they give us something to kind of brag about to other people and kind of get the ball going, but they were also fairly instrumental in introducing us to some other people and getting the ball rolling. So to make a long story short, here in a few weeks, we're going to be having a face-to-face meeting with our congressman again. And we're going to be bringing in a number of those influencers, hopefully to influence him and kind of be the deciding factor to allow him to join the caucus and kind of be a first kind of initial action or an initial success here in Idaho that hopefully we can build upon in the future.
Thanks, John. Yeah. And John's going to continue to set the pace for us, but we've got now probably about a half a dozen other Go teams that have started up in the last month. One of the things I wanted to stress here is that if we're organized about this, we can bring volunteers in, and they not only will be effective, but they'll have a sense that they're not spinning their wheels, that if we form a team, we identify prospects, we have a system for contacting them and engaging them and ultimately delivering results. If we can get a schedule for this, we can set goals for ourselves and work towards that. It just helps empower the team to get to make progress on this. So that's part of what we're trying to do. The first part of this, well, Harold's going to talk a little bit about the team members.
Well, just like a chapter leader leads the whole chapter, and that means a lot of things. It kind of, the chapter doesn't work if you don't have a good chapter leader. It's the same for a grassroots outreach leader. You need someone really willing to take the lead, make the meetings happen. You don't have to solve all the problems yourself. You don't have to do all the work yourself, but you need a leader who will make the meetings happen, because when you're working with influencers, they're used to getting things done. They want meetings to happen. They want follow-ups to happen. They want to recognize that you're on the ball, and you need a leader just to keep things going. Get people organized, motivate them, make them feel good when they do something well, and help them when they need help getting something done. It's not that different than being a group leader. It's just not as much work as being a group leader. But you really need someone who's, they don't have to be business, retired business person. They don't have to have that experience, but they do have to be able to get good at organizing and keeping people going. You can say the same thing. Well, what's the same about your team members? Again, it's being really ready to be part of a team, share the challenges, discuss the back and forth of how you're going to talk to a particular influencer that you're trying to engage. It would be helpful if they have community connections. That's not necessary. Sometimes the kind of person that you want will be the person who's going to engage in a one-on-one conversation, kind of at a community leader level. That's great. On the other hand, you're going to need people to do research, basic research, the kind of stuff you do when you're getting ready to meet with a member of Congress. What can you appreciate them for? What are the kinds of things that might resonate with them when you talk about climate? So it's just like meeting with a member of Congress. And again, in the back office of a Go team, you might have somebody who's just keeping track of things in the engagement tracker or working on your own prospect spreadsheet list that we're going to provide you when we do this, when we work with you.
Okay, so the first step in the process is you have a kickoff meeting, and that's where you define the goal. Say most people are going to want to do some kind of letter. So if it's a leader's letter, who's the member or members of Congress that you want this or these letters to go to? Work with your liaison and your group leader and other people in the chapter about the strategy, because this has got to support your overall strategy in the chapter, in the district, in the state for senators to deliver those votes. Another part of that kickoff meeting is to assign roles, who's doing what, as Harold mentioned. We'll introduce the prospect list and review some other tools, define some initial tasks, and then plan recurring meetings. Do we want to meet? How often? Weekly, monthly, every other week? An important thing that I want to say here is that you're not going to take this and run back with it and do it all yourself, although you could, but what we're here to do is help you with that kickoff meeting. We've done these meetings for a number of you, some of whom are on the call. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Ren. And this is just to introduce you to the idea that there will be support and what kinds of things go on through various parts of the process. So the next element of this, we've got a similar acronym here that Todd had. We call it ICE, Identify, Contact, and Engage. And this is critical to be efficient and effective with this work. Identify is to research the prospective community leader partners. Who are they, what are they, and how do we prioritize them? Contact them, which means basically get a meeting with them for the people that you've chosen as your high priority prospects. And finally, engage them to build relationship towards taking action on climate. So the prospect list, the information that we're looking for is both in the GET and it's not there. And what we've done to help you get started is we've pre-populated or will pre-populate a spreadsheet that has the top 250 employers in district by district for a state. And you can use that list to start scanning to see who you recognize in there, see if there's already a delegate that's working on them in the GET, and if not, to enter it in there. But this is going to allow your team to start picking off people and groups that will be responsive. Another way to find out, to supplement that list, you can ask friends, family, and colleagues. We have this concept called Who Do You Know, with a little logo there. But basically, it's various ways to identify those community leaders that you thought you couldn't reach. And You can just have a brainstorming session with Post-it notes on the wall. I think the Ohio and Kentucky people did that. You can also send a message out to your roster, and basically, you know, the first 2 people that come in with references to community leaders, heads of companies, will be will get a free gift certificate to Amazon to buy some LED light bulbs or something. But basically, ways to try to motivate your existing people to hook you up with those community leaders. We're going to provide referrals from our work with the national companies and trade groups. You can also just ask the congressional office, when we've done this in our chapter, who are the people that you respect in the community? Who do you think we should be talking to? And, you know, and in the context of, we want to understand their concerns so we can better represent them, rather than we're going to go out and recruit them to pester you. So, and last of all, and this is very important, if you've got relationships from city councils or school boards, which are great places to start because they work for you, those people, after they've endorsed carbon fee and dividend, can then start introducing you to other people in the community, particularly on the business side. So that's just one of the ways that we take our basic list, our single list, and we start adding to it. The next thing that we do with that list, and this is part of the tool set that we have, is that we look at this ALI: access, likelihood to act, and impact. And these are 3 important variables that you can judge any of these companies. So in the slide there, let's see if you can see, we've got ABC Brewing. We have great access to them because one of our members works there. They're very likely to act because we went to their website and they've got all this green carbon footprint stuff going on. Their impact maybe is not so great because they're kind of a medium small company, but overall it looks like they'd be a high priority, and you can score this as a priority 1 and come back to that one. The Coal Council might be very influential with a member of Congress, but they're very unlikely to act based on their public statements, and we really don't know anybody there. So as you identify these companies, you can go through and find the top 10 or 15 or 20, depending on how many people are on your team, and assign them. Okay, you get 5, you get 3, you get 2. What are you comfortable with? And you make those assignments based on expertise. So if someone has background in a particular industry or with a particular community organization, they'd be the person that you would choose to go there. And then everybody works as a team. They might provide the introduction, but they don't have to be the one that does the complete pitch and sale. We can bring in people to get on the phone, long distance, or Skype, or Zoom, to be able to make that presentation. So, and again, this is going really fast. We can go into this in more detail if you choose to launch one of these for your chapter. And let's see. So the research, very briefly, there's a lot of things you can look up that will help you not only prioritize, but help you get in touch with them and ultimately get their confidence. Here's just some examples on this sheet. And then the contact part. This can take a long time, but here's just a list of things that will help you make that contact, getting the right information. Great example here is, how did we get in touch with Monsanto? We were trying and trying and trying with emails and phone calls and people who work there. Finally, someone said, let's go to the form on their website that says contact us. And we went in, somebody filled that out and said, we'd like to talk to you about climate and energy. And we got a response the next day and a meeting within 2 months. So lots of ideas that we're trying to collect and share with anybody that participates in this effort.
Well, Todd mentioned earlier this incredible work that's happening with school boards. And I can't imagine a more chapter-friendly way to start engaging with Grasstops than going to local school boards, because, you know, everybody went to school. It's not intimidating. But the students there are going to be substantially younger than you, probably. And teachers are wonderful people to engage with, and school boards can be too. So what Park has done is put together a kit. And I would just encourage you, if you're starting a Grasstops Outreach team, it's a great place to think about starting. These endorsements that they've been getting seem to be happening fairly quickly. But my encouragement to you would be, do not think of this as just an endorsement. What you really want are the people on the school boards to engage with you, and I'm going to have a conversation with Park about this, is get from those school board members to the science departments, the high schools, and start seeing what you can do to get those students into the room with you when you talk to members of Congress. John Seeger, if he's still on the phone, could tell you, but I'm going to do it for him. Actually, at the Pacific Northwest Regional Conference last month, I was fortunate to be invited to attend and talk a little bit. They had some high school students who had just convinced the state legislature not to take climate change out of the school's science curricula for the entire state. Those students were so incredibly effective and pumped up. There were about 30 of those students at the regional conference. And I would just encourage you guys to start there. If you don't have a place to start, why not? You'll be building some relationships with people who really work hard in an important way for schools, and they're going to be very likely to be supportive of what you're doing. At least some of the school board members will. And if you can get to the high school science teachers, they can do amazing things with those students. The hospital outreach toolkit is similar. It was created by another Boise chapter member who was so meticulous in building the case and writing it down for why hospitals should be engaged on climate change. So this was a hospitals and climate change, again, a kit that you can customize for hospitals in your chapter, in your district, and take it to the hospital and say, we want you to engage with us in talking to our members of Congress. So there's a link for it there. And the people on the health and climate action team in CCL will be happy to talk to you about that. Diana Russell is in charge of that particular device, that toolkit. And finally, of course, BCL has a number of people working on various industry sectors. If you happen to have a company in your district that you think clicks into one of the sectors that we have, we'd be happy to talk to you, and our sector team leaders would be happy to talk to you about that company and help you engage it. I'll give you an example. We had someone who spent many years working for Mars in Pennsylvania, and he contacted us and said, I think we might be able to get Mars engaged. And sure enough, in the last couple of months, we've had two very, very positive meetings with Mars. We think they're going to do some amazing things with us very soon, and that was because a local chapter member had happened to work there and wanted to take the ball and help us run with it.
There are so many great asks, and one of the things I think we can do a better job at is kind of curating and collecting these and sharing them through CCU and through our Geo Teams network and the work that Todd and others have been doing. So suffice it to say that there's plenty of opportunities here to find something that fits a particular community leader and make it work. Harold mentioned earlier about what to do when our bill is introduced, and really it's just about having a network where you can pretty much push a button, 15 to 20 to 40 or however many we have community leaders to make that phone call or send that email or tweet. And I think, Harold, the next slide is keeping each relationship active.
Yes, well, I think it's important to remember, and we said this earlier, it's not just an endorsement, it's actually an engagement. And it's the difference, and I've said this before, I think it's kind of funny, it's the difference between asking somebody to go on a date or asking them to get married. The point is, you want a relationship that's going to outlive whatever action you ask them to take initially. And that's why you want to add value to the relationship every time you have a chance to interact. Maybe you're sending them news about local activity or global activity on climate. You want to be valuable to them and know that they are valuable to you. And if you enjoy the process of engaging with them, and you deserve to, by the way, you really deserve to enjoy that interaction and that relationship, and just appreciate that you are also becoming a community leader with them, and keep that relationship going so that when there is a time that there's a bill on the floor, whether it's carbon fee and dividend or something after carbon fee and dividend, they'll be answering your phone calls and looking forward to engagement and having you help them do the right thing on climate. Building bipartisanship from the bottom up. Boy, what a wonderful idea that came to me a little earlier this year. Van Jones wrote a new book called Beyond the Messy Truth. In it, he says that what we need now is not the kind of bipartisanship that was happening for the last couple of decades, where we had Republicans and Democrats from the elites deciding this and steering the country. What we needed to get out of the mess we're in, he says, is bipartisanship from the bottom up. And I just want to point out to you that that is exactly what we are doing. So the vision of using this bipartisanship mode, go after Republicans, go after Democrats, get them from your communities and build a team of influencers from anywhere in your community that you can get them, and keep those networks alive and well and functioning and synchronized. As we do with CCL, we're always synchronized from headquarters. So when you have those networks and they're ready to go, we can do some amazing things together.
So the last slide here is really let's get started. If you are interested in, I know some of you have already started this in your chapters, get in touch. You know, we've got a variety of things that we can help with. Our bandwidth is limited. We're trying to expand that, but really we think we've got a good way to help you become more effective at working with these community leaders. So I think we'll leave it at that.
At this point, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of these contact informations. We're so grateful for everyone's efforts out there. I know that this is a district by district, group by group, a mountain that we're climbing together, and it's because of your involvement and advocacy that we are shifting the dial. And so thank you so much for giving the time tonight. We hope that you found this useful, and we look forward to being in touch soon, everyone. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good
Thanks,
night.
team. Have a great night,
Connie,
family.
Connie.